Welcome to Conversations with Sarah. I'm Sarah Redden of SRTT, your online space for personal development. And today I'm joined by grief recovery specialist Bronwyn to have a conversation about how grief doesn't stop at Christmas. She's going to be sharing ways you can remember your loved one and bring new meaning and celebrations to the season. Thank you for joining me.
Hi, how are you going?
Oh, good, thank you. Thank you so much for being here and being a part of this, the Coping with Christmas episodes. Would you like to kind of explain to me what a grief recovery specialist is, please?
Yeah, so I help people kind of understand what their story is. And I worked in the funeral industry for a number of years and just saw people struggling with death and the death of a loved one, and really wanted to take action in that. My brother died from suicide when I was a teenager, and I'd had cancer myself. So my personal sort of journey with life had exposed me to a lot of death and trauma, I guess, at a young age. And I've always kind of learnt ways to cope myself by taking action and living life to the fullest. And I love travel and I love people. So wherever I went, it was just natural for me to engage in life, and my stories sort of unfolded around that. And it saw me working in the funeral industry for a number of years. And as a result of that and my time, working with families around death, I really wanted to take action to help people heal their hearts. And, what happens after the funeral, what happens when you've said goodbye to your loved one, what can you do with that?
Yeah, because it isn't something we kind of really talk about very much, is it, as a society, or that we have passed down coping strategies to deal with, or in my experience, death is something that obviously it's something that happens and isn't always communicated about, and can be the grief can be quite isolating and leave you in a space of sort of not really kind of knowing how to navigate through the change that has occurred in life.
Yeah, and it's not just grief. I think it's our feelings in general. We're very good at using analogies to try and explain our feelings, like, I feel like I've been hit by a truck, or I feel like I'm drowning, or, we use all these metaphors all the time because we don't really know how to express what our feelings are.
So can you share with me how you deal with the anniversaries and how other people can kind of navigate through that, especially as we're thinking about in relation to Christmas?
Yeah, I think the first thing I'd like to sort of acknowledge is when you are grieving for someone you love, Christmas is coming, the birthdays are coming, the anniversaries are coming, and it can be the simple thing of going to the supermarket and stumbling across their favourite biscuits, or walking down the street and, someone's wearing their favourite cologne. And it's those moments that catch you unaware that, trigger grief, and that can be really hard to deal with. As far as Christmas and those days that we know are coming up, it's really about working out ahead of time how you feel about that and how you can help yourself deal with that. So part of the programs I run now and working with my clients one-on-one is getting them really in tune with what their story is and what's happened to them and how they feel about that, and giving them kind of the acceptance that it's okay to change things up. So this Christmas they might not be wanting to do all of the traditions, and that's okay. Or how can they incorporate their loved one into Christmas Day? So some of the things that can be nice to do is to still buy a gift in memory of your loved one, but donate it to charity. So spend that time to go shopping, think about what they would really like, and then gift it to someone else in need. Even setting a place at the Christmas dinner table is a really nice way to incorporate that person. But it's more about having a plan and communicating with those in your life about what that plan is. Because when someone has died, everyone that knows that person had their own relationship with that person. So therefore, everyone often in a family situation, that's when we gather, is Christmas time. So there's a hell of a lot of feelings going on, and having an awareness around that is really important.
Yeah. Do you have any tips for sort of navigating through that space where, as you say, like people have different relationships, different sort of feelings about how maybe they want to honor people or ignore the situation? Do you have any tips of how people can navigate through those conversations?
Yeah, I think it really does come down to people being aware of what their own trigger points are. So spending time, in their own personal reflection, journaling, time to understand what their pain points are and what's going to make it better for them, and accepting that can change. So you can feel differently about a loved one as time goes on. So what might work for you one year might not work the following year, and that's okay. So just being really kind to yourself and knowing that you're not always going to get it right, but that journey of the grief that is unfolding is the messiness of what grief looks like. And my big thing is that we all have to take responsibility for ourselves. So, before we go worrying about what everyone else is doing and what everyone else is thinking, worry about, what's going to be really meaningful for me this year. Would I like to place a Christmas decoration on the tree for a loved one? Would I like to light a candle? Would it be nice to have, a photo up? There's lots of different things that can be done, but often people don't want to talk about it beforehand. They don't want to plan. Just reaching out, because generally speaking, people don't know what to say, so don't say anything, and that can often be worse. So on the other side of it, if you know someone that's lost someone at Christmas, even just acknowledging that, like, it's going to be, how are you feeling about it this year? Would you like me to, how would you like me to show up for you?
And that's one of my questions, actually, how the people who haven't had the loss but are aware of people that have had loss, how to support through this time, well, at any time, but as we've said, I think emotions are kind of more heightened around Christmas and anniversaries. There's a lot going on, so reaching out is a way that people can support. Is there any other suggestions that you have for connecting and supporting?
Look, I think knowing that it's not just a recent death, you can reach out to someone that has lost someone years ago and still check in on them about the one they loved. So there's not a time frame around this. There are no rules. There's no 101 textbook or guide to how you can help others. But I think just acknowledging when you don't know what to say, you can just acknowledge that you don't want to say, you don't know what to say, and that in itself is showing that you're thinking about that other person.
I mean, I think there's a fear around that acknowledgement that somehow it's going to trigger, like, the person receiving it to feel sad, or it's going to make them not feel great in some way. But I think that, like, people feel how they feel anyway. They haven't forgotten the person that passed. You're reaching out to show that you care isn't going to trigger that. I don't know. What do you think?
100%. So just reaching out and acknowledging it. I've got a friend that still sends me a card every year on the anniversary of my brother's death, and I love it. Just it's become something that I can anticipate that it's coming, and it's comforting to know that. Now, would I want 100 cards from everyone? No. Would I want to have to relive what that first year that was received so many condolence cards? No, I wouldn't want that. But this particular relationship is really lovely that I've got that. So it's about knowing what is going to be comforting for you, and that the best way to do that is to get to know what your story is and what your trigger points are, and really get to understand, you know, when things upset you. Often, you know, that saying, crying over spilt milk, or, you know, often it's the inconsequential things in life that stumble us up, and when we look deeply into them, often it's because of loss and grief from, you know, major events in our life that aren't dealt with. So I'm all about taking action around those moments, so that you know your story, you know how you feel about something, and you can be really proactive around Christmas, anniversaries, birthdays, to make things, you know, better. And I think the number one take home is that nobody wants to be forgotten, and we want to be able to keep speaking the names of our loved ones. So, you know, for me personally, my brother died. Oh, he's been dead longer than he lived. But what brings me great joy is all of my nephews and nieces know who he was. You know, we speak his name freely, and that brings, you know, so much joy to our lives. So, you know, his time walking on this earth, you know, was only 15 years, but he's continued to impact and, you know, influence and be part of, you know, lives that he actually had never physically met. And you know, the power of that is just incredible.
And it's there's a beauty in, isn't there, in being able to honor someone's memory and bring along their story into your life. And so I'm sat with feelings rather than words, so I'm trying to connect in with the words rather than the feelings. Like you say, it's that the people that have never met them, that never knew who they were, are able to have a sense of that person and what they meant to you, which in my experience then helps with the process of coming to terms with them no longer being physically here in your life.
And it's a deeper level of gratitude for that person. You know, it's when there's still sadness that they're not here, but I know there's no longer that regret that you wish things had have turned out differently. It's that it's the living in the now and taking the present moment and making the very best of it, with their memory, you know, at the forefront. And there's multiple ways of doing that, but it has to be specific. You know, in order for it to be meaningful, it has to be specific to the person that's left, you know.
But what I'm hearing is it's about finding what works for you and what feels aligned with you, rather than doing something that you think other people expect you to do, because there's traditions and there's things that society sort of tell us are acceptable ways of honoring people that are passed, or there's acceptable ways to grieving, and kind of, I think we like to have things quite tidy, don't we, as a society, and everything, you know, if you do it this way, this is the right way, and if you do it that way, then we're not sure that we're going to be very empathetic about your experience. But what I'm hearing you say is actually your feelings, the way you honor it is the most important thing, and doing what works for you is what works for you.
100%. And just acknowledging that your relationship with the person that has passed away is completely unique to the two of you. So, you know, you might have two sisters and they've both lost their mum, but each of those sisters had their own relationship with their mum. So their grief is going to be different. Their experience and how they want to do things is going to be different. And that's okay. I guess it gets hard when you don't know how to help yourself, and you worry about what's right for the person next to you, and all this energy is going into trying to, you know, worry about what other people might need at this time. And that's when I sort of just encourage people to look within and look at what's going to help them the most, and then they'll show up lighter and brighter and be able to be more present in the moment. And the, you know, ongoing effect of that is just so beautiful.
So helping yourself does in fact help those around you.
100%. 100%.
So how do we ask for help?
Oh, that's a tricky one. And yeah, look, calling me my website. And yeah, there's lots of, even just calling friends, like I gave that example of, my friend that gives me a condolence card every year for my brother's, the date my brother's passed. And that's something that I just absolutely treasure. So how do you ask for help? It is, reaching out to people and including them and being honest and telling them how you feel. So even when you don't know how you feel and when it's messy and you don't want to get out of your pajamas or you're feeling overwhelmed, just saying that and letting people know that you may not feel like talking today, or but try again another time. So
yeah, just kind of communicating where you are with it, and knowing that it's okay to not want to speak to people one day, but letting them know that it's okay to keep trying to speak to me, because one day maybe. Yeah. Thank you.
And you don't have all the answers, and that's okay. You may not feel like doing the full Christmas traditions, but that doesn't mean that you might not feel like doing it another day, or it doesn't, how you're feeling today is not going to be there forever. That saying that this time shall pass. And just trying to find meaning and joy in new things.
Yeah. What would you say to people that feel guilty about that they're still able to enjoy like Christmas and birthdays, and that they are able to have that joy, but then have that kind of guilt hangover of, oh, should I be allowed to have fun? Because I feel like it can be quite conflicting.
It can be, and that is just getting to know yourself really well. So that's part of the journey of that self-acceptance and that self-love, that we are humans. We are going to, if we're going to live life fully, we're going to experience the depths of loss and grief and sadness and joy and elation, and we can have it from moment to moment, and that's part of the human experience.
Thank you. Would you be happy to share a little bit about sort of your Christmas and how you do Christmas, with the things that you've learned and honouring the people that have passed in your life?
Absolutely. So Christmas was a funny one for me, because my brother's birthday was the week before Christmas, 18th December. And so after he passed away, my family, we would all go out for dinner together. And then I gave birth to my gorgeous daughter on his birthday. Okay. So it ended up being Eliza's birthday. And I remember at first it was this conflicting feeling, as you sort of said, I don't want my brother's death day to be on my brother's birthday. I just wanted it to be this wonderful day for my daughter, and didn't want there to be any sadness around that. So it's always just been about acknowledging the mix of emotions and feelings. So yes, it was my daughter's birthday, but it was also her uncle's birthday, and just allowing her to know who he was, and his story has been really life-giving for everyone.
Yeah. Thank you. And you've talked a little bit about sort of how to plan ahead for Christmas, but I think you have like a specific technique that you talk about. Can you share a little bit around that for me?
Yeah, so I guess it's just that acknowledgement that a lot of kind of talk goes into the first Christmas or the first birthday or what have you, and I just wanted to acknowledge that it's not always the first. It could be, I've heard people sort of say someone's been dead longer than they lived, and that was the year that they went, oh wow, this has been really, really hard. So it's about just working out with Christmas, having a plan, communicating with your loved ones about what you would like to do, and setting that up.
Yeah. So you talked a little bit about saving a seat. So that's
so that could be a nice thing to do. So, if and again, it depends on what, it has to be specific to what had been done previously. But if everyone is typically sitting in the same seat, then it's quite obvious that that person is not here. So putting a photo in that seat, and setting a spot at the Christmas table for them can be really lovely. Equally so, a Christmas decoration on the tree, or a candle on the mantelpiece.
And it just echoes back to everything you've said. It's kind of whatever's going to work for you, but I think sometimes it can just feel overwhelming, kind of not really knowing almost what the options are. But you've shared some really beautiful ways of honouring people, and I think, if someone's going through that this year, or have been going through that, and it will help them think about ways in which they can honour the people that they want to recognise, kind of where they are with their feelings, and open up hopefully those conversations and help people kind of connect in with each other, and have that it's okay to have that duality of emotion, that you can be happy about the festive season and be enjoying the things that you're enjoying, and it's okay to miss the person that isn't there, and to feel the mixture of emotion that you may feel around them not being there anymore.
100%.
Thank you. I mean, it feels like we're probably kind of coming to the end of time. Is there anything that you would like to leave people listening with today?
No, just to listen to your feelings. Feelings are important. Feelings, that gut instinct, listen to it. It'll guide you, and particularly around Christmas, and let that instinct find your voice.
Thank you so much for coming and speaking with me and sharing your story with me, and some techniques that people can pop into practice. Your details will be in the show notes, so if people want to reach out to you and connect with you and your services, they will be able to. So thank you so much for being here today.
No worries. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for those that have listened to today's Coping with Christmas episode. To find out more about me and my guest, to give feedback and suggestions, visit srtt.co.uk and follow SRTT Podcast on social media. As always, stay curious and be kind to yourself.